What did Bishop T.D. Jakes just do that no one saw coming? After stepping down and giving his daughter Sarah Jakes Roberts the Potter's House chair, shocking new signs show that he might be taking it back. Rumors of internal strife, confused churchgoers, and vague sermons all point to the same thing. There's a big deal going on behind those church doors that you don't know about. Keep reading, because what I'm about to say could change the way you always think about Bishop Jakes. You already know this if you've been following Bishop T.D. Jakes' wonderful work. People in the church pay attention when he moves. He made news in 2022 when he announced a generational shift in leadership. He passed the baton to his daughter Sarah Jakes Roberts and seemed to step down from the pulpit at the Potter's House. But lately something has changed. It sounds like Bishop Jakes might be getting back more than just his voice as quiet whispers start to rise. He could be taking back his whole position. Could it be that the bishop, who is liked for his fiery sermons and deep spiritual knowledge, isn't quite ready to leave? Are we seeing the start of another big change in power? This movie goes into great detail about the ongoing controversy that has believers, critics, and people who work in the church all asking the same thing. Is Bishop T.D. Jakes getting his church back? We'll talk about recent events, what's being said behind the scenes, what the hidden messages are in recent lectures, and how there may be problems in Jakes' family history. You won't believe what people have said in secret meetings that could change the future of one of the world's most important ministries. Take a seat, because now things start to get interesting. In 2022, Bishop T.D. Jakes said he was stepping down and giving his daughter control. This was seen as a powerful moment of legacy and empowerment. The Potter's House made me feel sad. Sarah Jakes Roberts, who is known for being honest and young-looking, took on her father's spiritual role in a service that got a lot of praise on social media. A lot of people saw clips of Bishop Jakes praying over her. This wasn't just a sign, it was history. But many people missed this. The truth is that Bishop Jakes never said he was leaving the Potter's House or retiring from service. As it turned out, Sarah was the star of some events, like Woman Evolve and Sunday services. Bishop Jakes continued to work in the background, making important choices about the church's direction, leadership, and finances. Now, people who were there say that what seemed like a passing of the torch might have been just a temporary change of positions. Things then took a strange turn in late 2024. Several churchgoers and staff members say that Bishop Jakes started to quietly show up more often, not just in talks but also in private leadership meetings. There were rumors that he was checking up on ministry departments, wanting to be involved in important administrative decisions, and even making choices about staffing. Was the change ever finished, or was it always part of a bigger plan? They don't want you to know this shocking fact, though. Several sources say that there was never a change in the law or the structure of the church's leadership. Behind the scenes, Bishop Jakes still has all the important power. Some people say he never really left. The church world cheered when Sarah Jakes Roberts took the lead. She brought a new energy to the stage with talks that spoke to the broken, the rejected, and the next generation of believers. She was young, full of life, and easy to relate to. People outside of church could hear her voice too. It was talked about on YouTube, in blogs, on social media sites, and at conferences. The Woman Grow movement took off, and thousands of women flocked to her events to listen to every word she said. But while her fame grew in public, things weren't always easy behind the scenes. Many people liked how honest Sarah was and how she was able to connect with millennials and Gen Z, but some longtime Potter's House members started to feel like they weren't getting along. Bishop Jakes was seen as a spiritual father by many for many years. He had a strong prophetic voice and spoke with biblical meaning. Now that Sarah's teaching style was more therapeutic and conversational, some members said they didn't get enough spiritual food. Some people both inside and outside of the Potter family said she was too soft, too trendy, and not deep enough to carry on a tradition as big as the Potter family home. Others softly wondered if the move toward ministry that was based on culture was weakening the church's original spiritual foundations. After that there was a stir. Early in 2025, the Potter's House went through a number of small but controversial changes. Several longtime ministry staff members quit or were informed they were being fired. Modern worship services started to feel more like concerts, which led to arguments on social media about whether prayer or entertainment is more important. And finally, Sarah Jakes Roberts gave a lecture in which she honestly admitted that she was still working on her own healing. This line caused a lot of discussion about spiritual readiness and pastoral leadership. People who work inside the church say that these changes made the leaders, including Bishop Jakes, uncomfortable. One person with close ties to the ministry said that Bishop Jakes started to worry that the original vision of the Potter's House was changing. He allegedly talked about going back to the basics and started to show up at planning meetings that he hadn't been to before. This is where things really got tense. Several sources say that a quiet split happened. Some staff and elders supported Sarah's more modern ideas, while others stuck with Bishop Jakes' more traditional way of leading. Some people have even said that the world is like a spiritual tug-of-war, and just when things looked like they could not get any more difficult, Bishop Jakes walked out on stage out of the blue and preached like he had never been away. But what made that return happen? And was it a one-time thing or the start of a change back? People in the church and online fans were shocked when Bishop T.D. Jakes walked up to the pulpit during a Sunday service at the Potter's House in the spring of 2025, without warning and with no official reason. People in the church were shocked when they saw the famous bishop walk up to the stage. They had come to hear a sermon from Sarah Jakes Roberts or another speaker. The crowd went crazy. Phones came out. More people watched live streams. He wasn't just back. It wasn't just his return that made people talk. He was on fire. What he said in between the lines. At the start of that talk, Bishop Jakes made a loud statement. At some point, you have to grab the house by its base again, because if it moves, everything else will too. Some saw this as a strong metaphor about the world or the church as a whole, but many, especially those who had been paying close attention to the leadership change, thought it was a hidden message, a hidden call-out, a quiet but clear message that something was wrong in his own home, the Potter's home. Bishop Jakes said a lot of things in the talk that made social media go crazy. We've let cuteness take the place of passion too much. Something isn't holy just because it's famous. Even when the sheep think they don't need him, the shepherd doesn't leave them. Let's take a short break now. Bishop Jakes has been lyrical all his life, always using metaphors. But these lines were said with an unusual level of passion, and they seemed to directly address the style and content of how his daughter was leading the ministry. He never said Sarah's name outright, but many people who had been paying attention for a long time could tell what he meant. This was more than just a lecture, it was a sentence. The question then was whether Bishop Jakes was gently addressing his daughter in public, or if he was talking about a bigger spiritual problem in the church. A video clip from his lecture went viral on TikTok and Instagram the same week. People were breaking down every line, every gesture, and every biblical reference. There was a lot of talk. Did he really come back? Was this a move to get power? Bishop Jakes started to show up on church flyers more often, talk at more Sunday services, and even take back his space during big Potter's House events, which made things worse. The biggest shock then came. Several Potter's House employees say that Bishop Jakes started leading monthly strategic meetings. Sarah Jakes Roberts had been given this job in a quiet way months before. Some people in the church thought this was the right way to get things back in order. Some, though, saw it as a quiet turnabout in the shift, or even a vote against Sarah's leadership. But it gets even more serious here. A person who is close to the family says Bishop Jakes was never really okay with leaving, and that recent culture pressures and Sarah's controversial public sermons set off alarms inside the group. The change is clear, whether it's true or not. It sounds like Bishop Jakes is giving more orders and advice in his lectures. More importantly, he's no longer portraying himself as an old man who has retired. Instead, he sees himself as a watchful leader who is taking back control. People outside of the church were amazed and thrilled by Bishop T.D. Jakes' return, but people who were there say things weren't quite so happy inside. Quite often within the Jakes family, To the outside world, Sarah Jakes Roberts seemed calm, collected, and deeply devoted to her father's legacy. She kept honoring him in her sermons by quoting his lessons, showing old videos, and even thanking him for giving her the stage she has now. Several people close to the minister say that things were much more complicated behind closed doors. To be clear, this isn't about going against the rules or being rude. This is about leadership identity, personal calling, and having different goals. Sarah's mission is based on being open, changing people, and reaching out to people who aren't in church, especially women who feel broken, judged, or left behind by traditional religion. Her style has always been casual, emotional, and honest. To be fair, it has worked. She has a huge following and made her own name in the faith world, far beyond what her father could have done. But that's where the problem lies. Church insiders say that Bishop Jakes started to worry that the spiritual DNA of the Potter's house, which he built from the ground up, was being overshadowed or diluted as Sarah's independent voice got stronger. More and more people were saying that he was worried that the church was changing into something he didn't know. One former employee, who did not want to be named, said that Bishop Jakes, Sarah, and some elders were at a tense family meeting in early 2025. The source said that Bishop Jakes was unhappy with the direction of the church and thought that the Potter's House name was moving too far away from its roots, but no other information was made public. And that wasn't the only thing that made things tense. There were also reports that some longtime church members and donors had stopped giving money because they didn't trust the new leadership plan. That financial stress may have been a big reason why Bishop Jakes got involved again. This is where things change. A person with ties to the Jakes family's media team told the press that Sarah was planning to turn Woman Evolve into a full-fledged church with its own prayer services, team, and pastoral staff. The goal was to make something different from Potter's House that would still work with it. But that same source says Bishop Jakes shut it down, not in public, but inside the company, because they were worried about brand confusion, theological clarity, and spiritual responsibility. After that, the father and daughter allegedly didn't talk to each other for weeks. Eventually, Sarah changed her mind and decided to use Keeping Women Evolve as a conference and platform instead of starting a separate church. Let's be fair now, this could just be two creative leaders dealing with the normal conflicts that come with leaving a legacy and moving on to new things. People are starting to notice that it hits different when the leaders are family. Social media users have started to say how cold Sarah and her father seem to be when they talk to each other. People were talking about a recent video clip online that showed Bishop Jakes lightly interrupting Sarah during a joint lecture. They wanted to know if it was a joke or an attempt to gain power. Even though they continue to treat each other with respect in public, the question still stands: is this a peaceful change of power or a quiet spiritual tug-of-war between generations? Why do you think that is? Which way will the Potter's House really go? There are reports that Bishop Jakes is stepping up as leader again, and this is having an effect not only on the pulpit, but also on the pews. The Jakes family has long been seen as spiritual royalty by Christians around the world, not just in Dallas, Texas, where the Potter's House is based. So what's going on inside the church really? Several members and people close to the group say that the mood is mixed and sometimes very divided. Some people are happy and even glad that Bishop Jakes is taking on a more active role again. They see him as a deep spiritual authority that they think has been missing. Many of these churchgoers have been following him for decades and won't change their minds about his guidance. They see him as a spiritual father who can keep the ship on course when things go wrong. Someone in the church is said to have said that when Bishop Jakes speaks, the atmosphere changes. I love Sarah. She talks from pain, while he talks from strength, but not everyone feels the same way. Younger people who went to church, especially those who liked Sarah's modern, open, and emotionally honest style of preaching, are starting to feel left out. That wasn't all they saw Sarah as. They could look in her mirror and feel safe seeing their problems, questions, and flaws. She talks a lot about therapy, trauma, identity, and healing in her lectures. All the things that many Christians today want in a crazy world. A young woman on TikTok who often posts videos from the Potter's House was worried. It seems like Sarah was finally giving us something new and real. We feel like we're being sucked back into the old system right now. These changes can also be seen online. The comment parts of Potter's House videos on social media have turned into quiet battlegrounds, with one side praising Bishop Jake's return to power and the other supporting Sarah's growth in her work. There are a lot of reaction videos and podcast shows, with titles like "Is the Church Ready for Bishop Jake's 2.0?" that break down the tension. Was Sarah going too far? The House of Potter broke up. Is it true or false? Not only people who go to church, but also pastors and church leaders, from all different types of denominations, are giving close attention. Why? It's not just about a dad and his daughter, it's about a change in the church's generations. What we're seeing is a real-life picture of a much bigger problem. What happens when a traditional authoritative model of ministry meets a modern, emotionally intelligent model? What happens when new ideas and old ones don't work together? Today a lot of leaders are going through the same struggle. They want to pass the torch without losing the flame. And Bishop Jakes has become a symbol of that battle, whether he meant to or not. Because he is back, churches are having to think about how they handle changes, and whether they can really grow without fighting. Also, most people don't know this. Several well-known black pastors are said to have privately contacted Bishop Jakes, either to support him or to warn him about what might happen if he and Sarah's public relationship turns bad. They were worried that this could set a bad example for ministry handovers in the future. It's not just about pride,